You're listening to the Possibility Show podcast. Welcome back to the Possibility Show, and today I am excited because after inviting her to the show, she wasn't really feeling well initially, but now we managed to match our schedules, and she's here. I've been like when I thought about starting this new season for the Possibility Show and really focusing on helping coaches. Uh, Her name was the first one that popped up, and so I'm truly honored that she accepted my invitation, and now she's here. Uh, and yeah, without further ado, let's all welcome and give big round of applause for Tammy.
Yay! Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
All right. Let me give a proper introduction so that people uh, get to know you as well. So,
They should just know who I am already. Amazing.
all right. So Tammy Biton. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did. Yeah, well done.
Uh, it has spent a lifetime studying the human psyche, and from the Eastern to spiritual philosophies through the modern psychology and neuroscience. After transforming her own life using the tools of NLP, Tammy left her career in the corporate world to help pursue her passion, helping others to live their life by design rather than by default. So overall, she weaves a mix of science and spirituality to create powerful transformations. Tammy is both highly skilled and experienced. Having helped hundreds of clients, she is credentialed as a professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. She holds certifications in modern psychology, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. That's how I met her. Life coaching, psychotherapy, meditation, and mindfulness, and profiling. So we are definitely gonna learn a lot from her today. Uh, and Tammy, would you like to add anything else in that wonderful introduction that I read from your website?
So I actually think you did a wonderful job. I think I wrote myself very well. No, look, I think for me, I also work for NLP Worldwide, obviously, where we train lots of new coaches. So I think I get lots of benefit and insight from teaching people the skills and the NLP tools, and also mentoring new coaches as they go through enhancing and utilizing those tools with their clients. So from the back end as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and my personal experience of Tammy, she did coach me when I first started in my coaching certification journey, and not only me but other coaches in our group speak really highly of her talents, of her personality. So definitely, I have like tons of questions to ask you on our topic for today. So with that, let's get started. So our topic for today is like specifically for coaches, how can they overcome self doubt and embracing their inner confidence. And maybe the first one, like this is, I think this is quite common. Like even before I started my coaching journey, going through from um, employment, or being an employee, transitioning to becoming an entrepreneur, starting my own business. There was a lot of self doubt as well, because it's something new, right? And have you ever had, like, for yourself, Tammy, some similar experience? And maybe you can share from that first.
Absolutely. Interestingly, Jovan, I was chatting to my partner yesterday after doing NLP training. And I said, I got there in the morning and I didn't even want to eat my breakfast. I was all nervous. And, there's all these 20 new faces in the room with, all these different levels of professions and experience as coaches. So in those moments, absolutely, even my own self-doubt was right. And then I step on the stage and use my anchors and poof, they all disappear. And I'm kind of back to me and comfortable in my own zone. But I think if anyone tells you they don't have self-doubt, they're lying. I think especially people that do, own it and kind of really into it, and those that kind of don't get as impacted by it, I guess, is the way they listen to it.
I love what you mentioned about using your NLP tools to like manage that self doubt and overcome that. Um, Before learning NLP, did you have any experience in how were you able to manage um, those
Yeah,
experiences?
so before learning NLP, I think I was a completely different personality, in all honesty. Before I learned NLP, there was definitely a confident side of me. I think there is a confident side of everybody. But my life in general, not just in business, was riddled with self doubt, riddled with anxiety, riddled with lack of self worth, riddled with lack of confidence. There was a lot of bravado, which is kind of that external display of I've got this, but inside that kind of shivering, quaking little.
Mm,
So I think learning NLP has shifted so much of that for me and made that confidence and that belief in myself so much more congruent and aligned. Um, but yeah, absolutely. Whether it's corporate career, whether it was quality management, whether it was owning and running a gym, there was self doubt through all, even relationships. It was everywhere in my life back
yeah, and you said it's merely like external, like bravado. Could you expound more of that? Is it related to like where there's this term called faking it till you make it? Is it related to that? Something like that?
then. Yeah, absolutely. So people would have looked at me and gone, "No, you're so confident. You're so external. You're such an extroverting kind of personality." But it was all fake it till you make it. There was no congruence, no alignment. It was almost this different personality. And as we know from NLP, we end up creating parts of ourselves. But it was this different personality that would front up and display the world and kind of the crying little girl that was inside. But yeah, fake it till you make it. But I was never really making it at that point, if I'm honest, the truth.
No, well, externally, like based on I think the society's measures, you're successful in terms of starting your own businesses. So, but I love what you mentioned about congruence and alignment,
Absolutely.
and then we'll talk more about
Yeah.
later on as well. But could when now that you're a coach, do you have any like experiences helping your clients um, go through this process as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that the first step I see with a lot of new coaches, especially, is the self doubt becomes so overpowering that they don't even start to try. And I think for me, if we have a look at the learning quadrant, there comes a point in time where you're, unconsciously and incompetent. You kind of don't know that you can't do it, and then you go through that point where you consciously know that you can't really do it, and then you consciously get to that point where you can do it. You're skilled. You've got that skill, but it's very focused. You pay attention, especially those nuances of the coaching questions and what to ask and what to do in rapport and sensory acuity. And you're kind of holding all those in the mind at the time, so you can do them, but it's such an overwhelming process. And then you kind of, with more skill and more ability and more time, you move unconsciously skilled, where you just it naturally flows and easy. But so many coaches get so caught up in that self doubt and that anxiety in the beginning before they develop that unconscious confidence that not feeling good enough, not feeling smart enough, not feeling capable enough.
Mm,
And they don't actually go out and practice because of that. And so for me, as you've got a little bit of competence, you're never going to start to build that confidence either. So you need to kind of have that balance of putting aside those self doubt to allow yourself to actually build the confidence and competence to go out and do those skills well. So
yeah,
it's kind of a chicken thing.
I know, and it's funny because it's counterintuitive as well because the way to become better or master the skills and become a better coach is to really do it, but because of the doubt you're not doing it, and so it's like what you said, like then it becomes a downward spiral. And
Yeah.
so I think what would help my audience will be like maybe that first step. Like, how do I overcome that? Like that's stopping me from really taking action with all the doubt that is happening uh,
Yeah.
right now in my space, right? So, what can you like maybe based on your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me that the key term that comes to mind is mindfulness. And I hate using that word because it's kind of sprayed everywhere at the moment, and people get the Buddhist monk in the kind of temple in their mind. And that's not at all what mindfulness means to me. I think with all due respect to the Buddhist monks, it's great to have that level of detachment, but come into the real world and see if you can still maintain that, because I think that's the art
Yeah.
form. But for me, that mindfulness is more of that awareness. There's awareness acceptance
Mm.
and then action when it comes to change. And so mindfulness is being aware of and catching yourself in those moments where you are having those self-doubts, where you're having those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions, whatever is coming up for you. And when you've got that awareness, you can actually start to step in and go, okay, dissociate it from a little bit, because we've got the mindfulness, we're catching it. And when we can dissociate, we're defusing. So we all have those thoughts. The difference is some of us believe it and some of us don't. But when we can dissociate from them and step out of them, we can start to question, well, is it really true? Do I really believe that? Like, what can I do to change it? You have choice in that freedom of kind of creating space. But when, even if we look at traditional psychology with acceptance and commitment therapy, it's that fusion to our thoughts that actually creates the problem. So the first step is always to defuse those or dissociate from those, so you can get a different perspective. So you're not trapped in that cycle of thinking, feeling, going round and round and round.
I love that. I love that. And the dissociation part, it's the reason why a lot of coaches have a hard time really, getting out of that and believing that that the thoughts that are coming or that are in their head is true because they are really associated with it. And so that's the first part. I love that. And then the other thing is that and this has been coming up a lot for the past few months is that you know the a new distinction for me in terms of beliefs is that beliefs are just thoughts that you have been thinking and thinking and thinking and you've forgotten about it. It's like
Yeah,
but it's just thoughts that has kind of like been there for so many times for so long that you actually believe it, but it's just thoughts. And to me it's like, yeah, like beliefs is just made up. we
absolutely. Yeah,
we made it up, and we have the capability to change it or remove it if it doesn't work for us, and keep it if it does,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, because you have beliefs that support you, and then you have beliefs that, like, those limiting ones that tear you down and trash you. And the interesting thing, Jovan, is so many of our beliefs do come, as you know, from that 0 to 7 age range. And so we basically have these little kids running around ruling our lives and preventing us from achieving the adult dreams that we have. Like, when you think about it, I'm a mum of three. I would never give power to my kids to rule my life. And yet that's what we all do every day. When we don't acknowledge those parts of us that are creating these kind of, the doubts and the overwhelm and the lack of confidence, we're letting little kids rule our life.
So I love that okay, so that mindfulness that you talked about, being aware of when you're having that self-doubt, accepting that, and then taking action. And normally what kind of actions can they take?
Yeah, I think it depends on the situation and what kind of tools have been in your toolkit. Depends on who you've worked with. If you have no NLP, no kind of experience, even just the dissociation can give you the space to start challenging those thoughts. If it's the I'm not good enough, I can't do this, it might be going through and kind of trying to find evidence of the things that actually, yeah, you can, yeah, you've done this before, and start to count, because so many of us in life, we're discounters. So there are two better programs. We either count our wins, yay, or we discount everything. And discounters typically, you'll go, Jovan, that's a really nice jumper. And you'll go, yeah, it's just from, or Jovan, you did a really nice job on that podcast. And you go, yeah, but I could have done better. So we so often discount the things we do in life, and we don't count our wins. And that's kind of one of the reasons where that self-doubt as well. So when we can create space, we can start to find our wins. We can start to step into that space of love where we've got anchors. We can, nurture that inner child a little bit, that petulant child often that's kind of tantruming and kind of going, I don't want to, I'm scared. You can acknowledge that and nurture it for a moment and go, I know that it's scary, I know that it's new, but how about we do this together? We can tap into other resources depending on the situation. Is it positive talk? I'm not a fan of all of affirmations. I actually hate them. But in saying that, I often hate them because they're not sometimes. So for me, if you've got an affirmation like, I am great, I am awesome, I am wonderful, that's great if you believe it. But if you don't believe that, you're saying, oh, you can do something like creating parts of yourself in that fractionated personality. So if you're going to do affirmations, make sure there's something that resonates and are true for you. Like, I'm learning this skill. I'm okay with, where I'm at. One good question is all I need to ask today. Because as a coach, the truth is one good question can change your client's world. So you don't have to be perfect. Sometimes it's that one good question. So it depends on where you're at. You could have an anchor for confidence. You could have an anchor for belief. But I think the first step is definitely dissociating from those thoughts and challenging them and changing that. So being more kind to yourself, being more nurturing to yourself, and figuring out more of that positive self-talk. I so often have clients that go, I want to get rid of my negative self-talk. I don't want it. But for me, if you're going to climb Mount Everest and go, I can ski, I want that negative self-talk to come in and go, really? That's not a good idea. I don't think you can do that. So that negative critic of us has constructive feedback sometimes, has good advice sometimes. It stops us, it prevents us from hurting ourselves. But sometimes that threat of harm isn't real. It's more of that psychological risk taking. People might judge me. In the words of Tay Tay, hate is going to hate. So often putting yourself out there is that risk of other people not liking you, and that can trigger patterns of people pleasing or not good enough. So I'd say it depends on where that self-doubt is really coming from as to what tools I would say to apply. But awareness is the first step, because when you can understand it, then you can figure out what next.
And uh, each person's experience is also different, but I agree that as well. Taking small steps would definitely be like easier to build the confidence. I feel, and this is based on what I observe and some of my clients and some of the coaches that I know around my circle as well, that they always try to compare themselves to others, like, oh, how come this other coach is doing really well and how come I am not, and then they compare their skills, and they want to be that person. And to me, I look at it, it's like really a big jump, and that's why they kind of like feel deflated, and they lose that kind of confidence. Have you ever experienced clients like that as well, experiencing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say it's not just clients in terms of business that do that. I think, unfortunately, social media and the availability to see everyone else's highlight reel does that a lot for us in life. So I think we're getting very conditioned to that, as well as our instant gratification. But I think when you're in that space of comparison, it's the art of joy. Everyone is exactly where they're at, and unless you've walked a mile in someone else's shoes, you can't compare. So, yourself as a coach, Jovan, is awesome with entrepreneurs and working in that space. So if I try and compare myself to you, you're a different kind of coach. You've got a different flair, a different personality, a different kind of interest, a different expression of, yes, we've got the same toolkit in terms of NLP, but we're going to have very different coaching styles, even though we've learned from the same basis. And so I think there's going to be people that resonate with me, and there's going to be people that resonate with you. And so when you're trying to be someone else or match someone else or compare to someone else, you're not only ripping yourself off, you're ripping off the people that you can actually help by being you. There's a beautiful quote by Marianne Williamson that says, when you allow the light to shine in you, you give permission for other people to allow the light to shine in them. And so I think there's a true beauty in just being who you are, owning your authenticity, showing up as you, and knowing that you will help people that you're meant to help.
I love that. I love that quote from Williamson. Excuse me. And before I ask about confidence, there's this thing that I read as well. Like, as coaches, we need to do causal treatment, not symptomatic treatment, right? Like not looking just at symptoms, but really digging deeper. And in that context, uh, what do you think are the sources of this self doubt from people or from coaches?
The sources are many. So I think it really depends on the person. It could be anything from, I've worked with clients before who it's literally, we work on their timeline and it's, they've come home, they're excited to show dad their project. They're like, Dad, look. And, dad comes in the door. He's tired from work and doesn't give them attention. And it's just like later. And so they have that kind of sense that their stuff's not good enough to get attention. So it can be beliefs that come from that very little age range. Sometimes it comes from the high school age where we were bullied or picked on or we were excluded. Sometimes it comes from the failures that we have. Sometimes it's fear of success. Sometimes it's fear of failure. On the opposite end of the spectrum. In Australia, I know that we have, I don't know what it's like over there in Singapore, but we have a massive issue with tall poppy syndrome, which is when you stand out and you're successful, everyone else around you seems to want to tear you down because they're not secure enough in themselves to celebrate you. So instead of going, you're awesome, they find some ways you're not awesome to make themselves feel better. So fear of success is as big as that fear of failure. So it can come from patterns like that. Sometimes it's, trauma or abuse or, deeper psychological impact. Sometimes it's just scared or uncertainty. We don't like doing new things necessarily. As humans, we feel oddly safe, even if we're uncomfortable. There's comfort in that uncomfort because it's recognizable as familiar. So sometimes it's just stepping out into the new, stepping out into the uncertainty that creates that self-doubt. I think, at the end of the day, we're mammals as well, and we're that kind of herd mentality. If a little possum steps out on its own and kind of leaves the herd and leaves itself open to more predators, more prey, kind of isolation. So I think from that mammalian animal point of view, like we're meant to be together to survive, let alone the emotions and the connections and all of that stuff that comes from the human connectedness as well. So I think there's so many things that come into play that influence self-doubt. I think it's one of those things that Jovan, I'd recommend anyone that's struggling with it. You're an awesome coach. Book in with you. Would have a discovery session or a call and really figure out what's holding them back so you can help them create a plan of where they're at and where they want to get to. Because everyone's going to have their own unique recipe.
For sure. Thanks for that. And with that, I just heard my voice. Is that feedback?
It's the universe calling. It's someone calling you already, Jovan, going, help me with that self-doubt.
Then I want to go back to what you said earlier is about congruence and alignment because I think that is like key into this. Starting off by like having that external kind of confidence, and then faking it till you make it, and then now that you are more aligned and congruent. So how were you able to reach that point in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, it was acknowledging that faking it till you make it doesn't work. So from NLP perspective, we know that, yes, you can change your state by changing physiology and you can fake it till you make it to a certain extent. But if you're having to do that continuously and you don't really believe it, it's that, yes, you're displaying that externally, but you're not feeling it internally. And that, I think, creates more self-doubt, more of that imposter syndrome, more of that not good enough, which is just creating more issues down the track. If we're just treating the symptom and bravado fixes it, confidence, it's not really addressing the underlying issues that go on. So it just creates more of a fester point on those. So for me, it was identifying that, being the willingness to be vulnerable and open and explore. Sometimes it can be scary to do the inner work. It's not necessarily hard, but sometimes facing our demons can feel scary. I know a lot of people, and for me especially, that had so much trauma in my background that I was like, what am I going to open up? And I think the beautiful thing about NLP and kind of going through that process is learning that you don't have to, bring out those demons. I did traditional psychology. I played with those demons. I met them. I got terrified by them all over again. And so I think knowing that I didn't have to deal with those in the kind of confrontational way of going, really all again, was a game changer for me personally. So I think it was having that ability and that vulnerability to open up. I think B, having some good coaches a long time and kind of working with people to spot my blind spots. Because even though I know what the unconscious mind is, even though I know some of the patterns and programs that I run, I was really good at hiding from myself still. There were still bits and pieces. So, having someone else be able to ask you questions, be able to find those patterns, be able to call that back has been another thing. I think for me, getting all the way through to NLP trainers training was really that kind of moment where I realised the power of being me. Because even up until that point, in all honesty, I was still comparing myself to Heidi and trying to go, okay, yep, she's my trainer. How do I compare to her? And so it wasn't until I got to trainers training that I'm like, I don't have to be her. I'm never going to be her. I'm me. Yes, I'm quirky. Yes, I'm a little bit weird. Yes, I'm playful. Yes, I can be slightly unprofessional at times. Yes, I can be inappropriate. Yes, my mind lives in the gutter. Yes, my training style is very different. Yes, I have a laugh that tackles the universe and everyone can hear it. But that's me. That's who I am. And the minute I can own that and appreciate that, that's a gift that I can give the world. So I think for me, it was a personal growth journey of really discovering and loving and coming to acceptance of who I am, what I have to offer. And that sounds really odd, but I think I spent so much of my lifetime thinking that you're up yourself or you're conceited or you're a lover, all those words you get thrown around at high school, that it's not okay to love yourself, that it's not okay to be proud of yourself, that it's not okay to, spruik your own horn. But there comes a point where you realise that you kind of have to.
Yeah.
You kind of have to. And if you're not going to be okay with you, you have to expect anyone else to be. So again, if you want your clients to come to that place of acceptance with them, if you want them to be the best that they can be, you have to walk the walk.
Preach. Oh my God, that's so good. There's so much gold to unpack there. But just not to just to strike the iron while it's still hot. And it being really who you are and accepting that, because everyone else is taken, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a quote by Dr. Seuss that says, be true to you because no one can be better than you at you, or something like that.
Yeah, and being the best of who you can be and who you are, right? I think that's the game that we are playing. So I just love that. One of the other things I want to unpack is that what you mentioned, when you started picking to make it, because I also feel that people can smell, if you're really inauthentic. I'll use the word inauthentic instead of being fake. When you're being inauthentic, and not like being yourself, then people can really sense it and smell it in a way. And I think that's we know that we ourselves can see that, feel that, smell that from other people, and so why are we still doing that? That's the question that I always ask. So something interesting. So why and I attribute this to like us wanting to look good, isn't it? And why is that? Why? I mean, I have my own answers, but I would love to hear your answers. And why do we have this desire to actually look good?
Such a good question. And I would say, again, different people are going to have different themes of that. But I think ultimately it comes back to that wanting to feel loved, wanting to feel respected, wanting to feel worthy. We have that idea that we have to be a certain way in order to earn that. That, our worth is conditional, that our value is conditional, that our beingness is conditional, and that we have to earn that love, that respect, that worth, which is absolute utter, bullshit. At the end of the day, all of that is intrinsic. So your worth isn't dependent on someone else seeing it. Your value isn't dependent on someone else seeing it. Your ability or worthiness of being respected isn't worthy on how someone else treats you. Everyone is going to have their own opinion of you based on their filters, their beliefs, their values, their past experiences. So at the end of the day, no matter what you're projecting out into the world, they're going to make a judgment. So whether you aim to be perfect, whether you copy someone else, there is always going to be someone somewhere that judges you. So you may as well just be you and have a good time.
Uh, for you, right? When you work with your clients or maybe for yourself as well, do you have any exercises that you do to actually build up your confidence?
Yeah, so I would say developing your confidence. Again, to me, confidence is one of those weird words that comes to competence for me personally. So if we're talking about that inner confidence, how are you defining confidence?
Um, I would say, yeah, like to be able to for coaches to be able to come out and present themselves, communicate well, execute in terms of coaching people, bringing them to where they want to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. In that case, then I would say tips and tricks would be to practice, 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 practice. So give yourself permission to practice with clients, practice with friends, pull people off the street. I don't care if you shout people or make them buy you a coffee for your coaching to begin with, or whether you start charging $600 a session because you've got a whole wealth of experience behind you and you feel capable of that already. But practice, practice, practice. Number one. So practice asking questions, practice coaching, practice kind of setting up your session. Know who you are, know what your strengths are, know what you want to offer, know what you're going to bring to the table. So like I said, even if you're just asking one good question in an entire coaching session and you do nothing else, even if the rest of the session's crap, the power of one good question for someone to change their life is all you need to do. And sometimes for someone, it's just sitting in the room and voicing that. I have clients that pay me just for whiteboard sessions. So literally, I just spend the hour sitting there and they just bounce ideas and kind of I ask questions and help you formulate that because that's all they need. But I would say knowing what you're going to bring to that table. So that inner confidence is really about knowing who you are, knowing what you bring, knowing your strengths, owning them, being okay to celebrate them, to present them to other people, speaking your truth. I think, like you said earlier, people can sense that incongruence, they can sense that misalignment. So if you're not believing what you're saying, how can you expect anyone else to believe it?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's super true, super true. And that's all in the competence of a coach and how can they can become better in their practice. And I want to add into that, uh, not only like knowing yourself, because that's key, right? The other part of, because coaching itself is business, right? It's and as a coach you need to understand who your clients are as well. And when you are super clear in knowing who you are serving, then that brings that confidence as well. Like, uh, how can you speak to them? What the exact words do you want to use in order to reach them as well? So,
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're not comfortable on social media or not comfortable on video, record yourself 500 times until you get comfortable. Even if you just send those first couple of videos to friends or family or your mom or your grandma, just get comfortable in front of a camera. Get comfortable in telling people who you do. NLP is not the only coaching modality, obviously, but whatever your modality is, make sure you can explain it and define it easily to people. If you're not good at business, this is the first time you've ever opened a business. Sometimes it's a lonely road. Make sure you build a team around you that can support you, whether that's a business coach, someone that can help you set up the business from that economical standpoint, whether it's kind of a tribe of other students who have gone through similar programs with, whether it's kind of a coaching group with Boban where you kind of get together with a whole group of other coaches, whatever it is, I would say create a tribe around you. If you've never done business, get coached on how to do business, get some consultancy or something on that. Just like you learned how to coach, sometimes you have to learn how to business. It's no different. It's a skill. I think for a lot of us who come from that business background, for me it was a long time in the corporate world and a long time in corporate world in little businesses too. So scientific and medical through to, FMCG and kind of all kinds of things in between. And so I got the benefit of quality management and sales and marketing exposure in that business management. So I kind of knew all facets of business before I even looked at getting into coaching. And, I had gyms and stuff before that. So I'd done business before I did coaching. But if you haven't, make sure you do that, because again, you're going to have more confidence in having someone else help you. If you have no idea who to coach or what you need to, start coaching a couple of people and see how it feels for you. See who you enjoy working with. There's no point setting a niche of, I'm going to work with women that are 30 to 45 on, finding a life they love, and then you go, actually, I don't like working with women. God, they're bitch and they carry on too much. Or going, I really like working with, I want to work with guys. That's who I want to work with. I want to work with guys who are, getting fit or creating marathons, or guys who are struggling with anxiety. And then you go, God, guys, I don't actually like working with them, When a guy cries, I find it really hard to deal with. I know for a little while for me, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do fertility coaching. And I loved it for a little while. I really, really loved it. Until I had like kind of 4 mums in a row all lose their babies. And I went, I'm really good at dealing with old trauma. For me, everything you've ever dealt with, all the abuse you've ever had, I'm awesome at dealing with that. But when it comes to the grief that's now and present, as a coach, I'm not so great at dealing with that. So I was like, maybe this niche isn't for me. And so try things on, see where you feel. And when you're kind of defining your niche, have a bit of a play. Just because you make a decision today doesn't mean it's lifelong. If you don't like that niche, you can change it next week. You can change it next year. You can do different stuff. I've changed my niche, I think, 6 times since I started coaching. Just because I've grown and I've evolved over 15 years. I think if I was still coaching, people in the gym, I'd probably be bored, because that's not kind of my focus anymore. So I think, in defining your niche, it's not a forever. There's some flexibility there, but get help. If you've never done it, get help.
Great advice. And it's kind of like my journey as well. When I first went into certifying myself as a coach in 2019, that's when I met NLP Worldwide and Heidi, and going through the process, coaching foundations, and I defined myself. Okay, I want to be a business coach, because like you, I was also an entrepreneur before I started to focus on coaching and training. And throughout that process since 2019, and then we lost like 3 years after that, not because of COVID, but during that process, I also tried out a lot of things. I tried leadership coaching, I tried relationship coaching, I tried many team coaching, and many other things. And I, for me, because I've done business before, like many other businesses, like starting and stopping, and it was kind of like a more natural thing for me. But I can clearly uh, hear, or another coach would tell themselves, but what would other people tell me, like how come you are always changing, like that kind of perception. They're scared of hearing that from other people, or maybe their family members saying like, how come you just are jumping around and not like fixing yourself, like focusing on one thing. And I think that's the other thing that they're scared of, when people kind of like perceive them to be like that.
Yeah, our general fear of people's perceptions of us can hold us back in so many ways and create more self-doubt.
And what does self-esteem, or how does self-esteem play in all of this?
Yeah, so to me, self-esteem is that deep level. So confidence is something that's very situational in my world, in my definitions. So confidence has that context specific. So in order for me to be confident at something, I have to have competence at it. But that self-esteem is that knowing there is no failure in the back. Self-esteem is that ability to give it a go. If I fail, it's okay. I try again in a different way. I can remember when my son did martial arts. He did a national all-stars tournament, and the adjudicators are all kind of lined up, and the I guess the competitors were all lined up. I can't even think of what the head director dude's name is. I probably should figure that out for the story. But he was there and he addressed all the things. He said, "Today you win or you learn. That's it. You win or you learn." And I think when we have esteem, it's that we have that sense of worth. We have that intrinsic knowing that we're enough, that we're okay, that we're good, that we're safe, that we're loved, that we're worthy, that we're all of those things, despite whatever situation shake us. So it's that unshakable okayness with ourselves that it doesn't start if we're not competent yet. We know that we can keep working and get confident and build more confidence. It's that ability to go, I can try that new niche. It doesn't much matter if mum or dad judge me for it. I know that I'm not completely satisfied with this particular one I'm doing now, so I'll shift and change. It's that, someone comments on my social media post and says, "Hey, your camera angle is wrong," or "You sound really nasally because you're really congested. Like, shouldn't you be perfect as a coach?" It's that ability to go, whatever. Both Heidi and I laugh quite often with NLP Worldwide because emails go out all the time with typos because neither of us have that perfecting tendency and neither of us have the attention to detail. So sometimes, I'll pick up an error in hers or she'll pick up an error in mine. And it's that neither of us really care, in all honesty. It's that, we don't tie our feeling, how we feel about ourselves, to what anyone else says, what anyone else does, what we do as a mistake, what happens in life. It's none of our belief about ourselves and who we are and being lovable gets tied to that. So for me, that's esteem.
Yeah, and would building up self-esteem intrinsically affect, the confidence level as well?
Yeah, a direct relation. I think the more esteem you have within yourself, the more confidence you're going to exhibit. Again, the more esteem you have in yourself, the more authentically and congruently you can show up, because it doesn't matter if Pete Jones doesn't like you or, Joe Bloggs. Who cares? So I think there's definitely, who are they? I don't know. Sorry if there's a Pete Jones on your podcast. I apologize. If you don't like me, but it's that ability to go, who cares? And I think there's a certain element of confidence of just being able to congruently shine, of knowing it's okay, of owning your stuff, of kind of, even me, I make mistakes. Putting up your hand and going, "I'm really sorry, I made a boo-boo." Kind of owning that for yourself. So yeah, I absolutely think when your esteem increases and you work on that innerness, 100% that confidence goes up. The ability to defuse from your self-doubt becomes so much easier. Like I said, I still have self-doubt that comes in. I still have anxiety. And I think the day I don't have that before a training, or the day I don't have that before I do something that's important to me, is the day it's probably not important anymore. Because those little butterflies let me know that what I'm about to do actually matters. It's that kind of check of going, are you prepared? Have you done all you need to? And the answer to that is, yeah, I'm good, thanks. But if I don't have that check, it's probably whatever is going on. It doesn't really matter to me anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. And I heard like many years ago, like I've been following some of the top speakers and trainers in the world, like Anthony Robbins, and one of the interviews that he did acknowledge that he still get a bit of that, jitters or butterfly before heading up. And we know that Anthony Robbins uses NLP as well. Before he comes onto the stage, he has a lot of the actions. He triggers anchors, and that just kind of like clicked for me. It's like, wow, like someone that big, like literally big, but like what I mean.
Yep.
Still feels that fear and nervousness before coming up the stage. So what I was actually feeling is normal, and so that really helped me. Every time I go and speak on stages or give trainings. Yeah, so everyone feels it.
Everyone feels it. The difference is, like you said in the beginning, our beliefs are the thoughts that we tell ourselves. The difference is some of us believe those thoughts and some of us have enough esteem to go, no. not today. Even criticism, I have a quote or a saying that if the shoe fits, I'll wear it. So if someone's going to kind of throw criticism at me, I take a look at it. I don't just go, no, that's not me. I kind of go, okay, yeah, you've given me this shoe. I'm going to try it on. Does it fit? Yeah. Do I like it? No. Okay, so that's something that I now need to fix it. There's something in me that you've said something about me. I'm kind of owning that, yeah, that was true, or yeah, that is true. So I need to shift and change something. Or I take the shoe and I try it on, and even if it's an alarm and bionic or one of those expensive shoes, I'm going to go, yeah, it doesn't fit. You take it back. If the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. If people are criticizing you and it's not true, don't take it on. And that's the same for you. If you're criticizing you and it's not true, let it go.
And what are for our audiences who have no idea of what NLP is? Uh, you mentioned, and we did mention about anchors, and maybe we can give them a little bit of the introduction what anchors are and what it does.
Yeah, so absolutely. So NLP, to back up a little bit, has a look at the language of the mind and how we create the patterns of thoughts, emotions, and behavior. So it's come about from a lot of work from John Gringer and the kind of people back in the 70s, as you know, who modeled the best therapists at the time. And so when they started to have a look at it and have a look at anchors, an anchor is just a stimulus that creates a response. So we've all probably, as a coach, heard the Pavlov's dog story where, Pavlov rings the bell and the dogs get fed and they salivate. He rings the bell, feeds them, they salivate. He rings the bell, they dribble, he feeds them. And then all of a sudden one day he rings the bell and realizes they salivate without the food being there anymore. And we all have that experience in some point, a stop sign, a song that comes on and we start crying because it reminds us of our long lost life from a teenager. Or, we see the other day, McDonald's. And so I looked at the gym the other day to go to the supplement store with a friend and she's like, we walk past McDonald's and she's like, oh, I love the smell of McDonald's. I'm like, bleh. She's like, no, it's beautiful. And I'm like, what? She says, it just reminds me of road trips when I was young because, I would be asleep in the car and then we would wake up somewhere and like, and then it'd be McDonald's for breakfast wherever we were. So, for her, the smell of McDonald's is road trips. For me, I'm like, gross stomach and feeling yuck. So anchors occur all the time. But when they studied NLP, kind of studied the language of the mind, they had a look at how we can take those naturally occurring anchors and create states for ourselves. So states being moods or emotions. So kind of uptime states of energized, powerful, strong, confident, sexy, sassy, wondrous, or kind of more relaxed, more chilled, more peaceful, more tranquil, more calm, more at ease. So whatever state, whatever mood or emotion we want to be in, we can kind of anchor those, whether it's a physical touch or something we say to ourselves, and just induce that state on call.
Brilliant. And that's just one of the amazing tools that we learn from NLP. And like just uh, sharing my own personal experience, like what I mentioned, I've done several businesses, start stop, and along that, there were some challenges and some betrayals, and there were points in my life that I was really depressed, and that those depressive states would come and go. And again, like I wasn't really much. I would say I was aware, but my level of awareness hasn't really expanded that much yet. And so I would go into this depressive states like for quite some time, like weeks, or sometimes can be like a couple of months. And I just like I wasn't really motivated to do anything. And it's only when I started to recognize that I say, hey, okay, this is actually happening. And but I couldn't do anything about it. I was just like there, just being with it. But then what I got from NLP, what I learned from NLP is those tools that I can really use to get out of that depressive state much faster. And now I don't need to be there for a very long time and be unproductive, be unloving, be just someone who is just in his cave. And that was the power that NLP has given me back into my life, like to be out there and be someone who is out there making a difference, like, going back into the goals or the intentions that I've set. And I'm forever grateful for NLP for that. So,
Yeah, I'm so grateful you took NLP because the world needs you out of your cave out there.
so for those of you, and like I'm gonna ask Tammy to share more about that in a while. But that's just to wrap up our conversation, and I've actually like really learned a lot. Like it ignited me again to really feel that I'm doing the right thing. Like I'm on track to really supporting a lot of you out there who, because I believe that coaches went into this profession because of their big heart of wanting to really help other people. And it's really sad when I see a lot of them, like, getting discouraged because things are not going well. They're very skilled in what they do, but they don't know how to bring themselves out there and get more coaching clients and build the business that they love. And and just hearing you say all of these things is like, fires me up again. So thank you so much for that.
For allowing me to share.
So in maybe we can, like, wrap this up by saying, maybe you have any final words that you can say for the coaches out there if they are experiencing self-doubt, like have low self-confidence, and what can you like say for to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, as I said, for me in the beginning, Jovan, I had a lot of bravado, but I was a fragile little girl inside. I'm very kind of broken, um, very unconfident, very scared, very timid, very shy. And working on me has allowed me to come out and kind of be the personality you see now. There's no bravado, there's no fakeness. I am who I am and 100% accept it. No matter where you're at on your journey, it's perfectly okay. If you're listening to me and going, oh, but she's confident, or you're listening to Jovan and going, oh, look, he's putting stuff together now. Yeah, we do now. We didn't always. So just as you're on your journey, we've all had ours. And so no matter where you are on that journey, it's okay. Based on the beliefs you have, based on the values you have, based on the past experiences you've had, based on the influences you've had in your life, all of that's going to come into play with how you're seeing this very moment that you're in now. But if you can accept where you're at now, accept that there might be some things that need to shift and change, then that's where the power is. Because when you kind of have the awareness, you have that acceptance of what it is now, you can start taking action. You can start choosing those steps that you take. And Tony Robbins, you mentioned him before, is a big fan of taking massive action. Excuse my French, but massive action can also end up in massive effort. So maybe take smaller, more sustainable that are going to be more ecological for you, your well-being, your health, your benefit. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither did business. So it will take time, unfortunately. So make sure that you've got the support around you to know that it's going to take a little bit of time. You're not going to end up with 6 figures in 2 months' time. So be prepared for that. Be okay with that. Work on your own demons in the meantime. Help support as many people as you can. And again, know that you've got something to offer. By listening to this podcast, I know that you have something to share with the world. You have a gift, you have a passion, and the fact that you've got to, what are we doing on 53 minutes into the podcast? If you're still listening, you've got commitment to actually make this work. So sending you love, light, energy, and stick with it because it's just about there. That journey is, you're on there. So just keep at it because it's obviously important enough to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Tammy. And if the listeners, the viewers, the audience would love to know more about NLP and how they can learn, like I know there's a upcoming intake for the online one. Maybe you can share more information around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the NLP training online, the September one is full, but they can jump into December, which is the 8th to the 15th of December. It runs on Sydney time, so it runs from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. If you want more information, you can jump onto nlpworldwide.com. That's NLP Worldwide, all one word. com and download the training brochure, book a call, do whatever you need to do, or just find out more about NLP. You might kind of go down the rabbit hole and just find a whole lot of videos, or so you want to be a coach or find out more about NLP like I did when I first started. And if you end up down the rabbit hole and spend a little while there, enjoy it. Enjoy the learnings that are there. If you want to do the training, know where it is.
Yeah, yeah. And you can always message me as well. Drop me a message if you are interested. Maybe we can hop on a call, short call, to talk about it. I've done that for NLP Worldwide as well, and I think it's super helpful to hear like someone who has gone through it as well. I did the whole thing, and I can just share with you like my personal experience and how it has helped me. I really enjoyed and learned a lot as well during this interview. All right, so with that, thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Oh, hey there. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember to click the bell button so you get updated of the new videos. See you in the next one.